All right. Call this meeting to order. This is going to be a work session for the Board of Directors, Pagosa Area Water and Sanitation District. Today is June 25th, 2026. It is 4 p.m. on the dot. We're going to do a call to order. Director Hudson.
Here.
Director Jones. Here. Director Walsh.
Here.
Director Talgis is out today for an excused absence. So we have 4 out of 5. And we'll proceed with a discussion regarding 2026 adopted budget and debt service coverage. And I think that's going to be Jack that's going to start that off for us.
Well, first, thank you guys for your time. The first piece that I wanted to go over is kind of give a recap of why we were here, what was discussed last time, and just very high level. So as far as the budget, we do have a budget shortfall with our CIF revenues. And in addition to that, when we did our budget, we included grant revenue as part of the calculation of our debt service, and it shouldn't have been. So those are two main drivers. Last or 10 days ago when we met, the question came up in regards to were we going to be able to cover what was the delta of how far behind are we? And at that time, I had estimated that it was going to be 800 to 825,000 that we would be behind where we needed to be. Now, that being said, we do have some changes, and I do want to go over the questions that Renee took down for us. And I think I know we're in a significantly better spot from one of the changes that did come up in the last 10 days. So on that, I'm going to kind of run through the questions, and I'll go in order, but I'm going to use question number 4 first because it's the relevant one. It's the driving factor that we have here. And the full board wants to know the terms of our most stringent debt service coverage. So I went through the 5 debt agreements that we have outstanding. There are Hatcher agreement from 2008, the San Juan Reservoir, Dry Gulch Reservoir agreement that was revised in 2015. The new lift station and Force Main Highlands Water Treatment Facility loan, snowball loan, and our 2024 revenue bond loans. And the most stringent debt service coverage ratio that any one of those particular bonds has that I have seen is 1.1. And we were going off the idea 10 days ago that threshold was 1.25. That I did reach out to our auditor, and I did get an informal, we won't get his formal report until later, but an informal confirmation that he is also in his work papers only showing the 1.1 as well. And the delta of that 1.25 versus 1.1 changes on how much revenue and expenses come in. So this is an estimate, and my best guess of the estimate today is a $550,000 swing from that 800 and 825 delta that we were missing. Just changing that most stringent debt service coverage ratio from the 1.25 to the 1.1. And I mean, in full disclosure, how I got there is I'm using the same as last time type behaviors, which aren't good, but there's enough volume here that it's difficult for me to go back and, kind of go to that first principles concept of everything that's historically been done. So that question drove kind of going and looking through each one of these agreements for that debt service coverage piece.
That was the real legwork that we needed to confirm in the last 10 days, that we weren't sure. We were going with the 1.25.
We all were.
Initially,
yeah.
And that's why I brought this to the board's attention. When we're looking at $800,000 deficit, you guys need to know, and you need to know right away. as we worked through this, we're able to back that back down to the 1.10, which is a lot more manageable, and that's a part of what we're meeting today with the cuts that I have made and that debt service coverage floor moving down. We're in a much better position.
So did you say we're at 500,000 deficit? Or
So that 550,000, it reduces that deficit estimate that I had of
By that
800
much.
by that much.
So we're deficit is more like 250.
Yes.
That's
Pocket change.
a lot more manageable though.
It's
than-
manageable.
Yeah. I don't know if I go in the pocket change verbiage, but, question one from the last meeting, Bill wanted to clarify that even though revenue that is not part of the debt service coverage ratio is still collectible, yes, it is still collectible. Question two, or I guess this was a statement, Glenn confirms that the large wastewater grants cannot be used as DSCR. It's almost verbatim in the debt service contracts that you can't use grant revenue. Gene wanted to know what all was in the other revenue buckets, and this isn't a full list, but it's things like transfer fees, meter reads, transfers in, out, claim deed release of easements, replat mapping fees, disconnect fees, transfer fees again, meter read fees, that kind of stuff is what makes up that other revenue. And that's where we were putting grant revenue. This wasn't formally asked in the meeting, but you had also asked, hey, can we pull that out? We did pull that out. Actually, I went and pulled that out in 2025 and made its own grant revenue bucket. Because the other revenue is just kind of a miscellaneous where you put those small services that don't have their own home and don't drive. But that grant revenue is big enough that, it's $1 million. So we did create a grant revenue line. It would still be in the budget under other revenue, but it is now its own line item, and I've broken that out in 2026 as well. Bill had asked at that last meeting, is this proposed budget cuts going to cover the shortfall? At that time, we weren't going to cover the 825. We believe that it is doable and we will be able to cover it today. And I think Andy's also going to say we need to make sure that we're watching it, because we can't have any force majeure, we can't have any big expenses pop up, but we think we can manage. So in the last question, I didn't know exactly what the question was, but the full board asked for, or how the annual payment or lack of the running iron ranch figures into the DSCR calculation. So I've kind of responded, or I'm going to respond to this one in two ways. The first, if San Juan, or if just someone wanted to pay our obligation this year, we still are obligated by the bank. So really that payment would fall under both it's a one-time event, not really our operating activity. And it doesn't relieve us of our obligation, even if someone else makes the payment. So unfortunately, San Juan or anybody making that payment doesn't immediately affect this year's debt service. No, that question is, are we removing that debt on the long-term go forth portion? Yes, that's part of the denominator. So it's not exactly a 1-for-1, but it's part of that debt service that you've got to overcome, and you don't have to overcome it if it's not there. So if the obligation's gone, it does help going forward. And it would be a significant, it would be a big help going forward. I don't know if I have a dollar off the top of my head, but I think my NAC and math was 7-8 full percentage points on that 110 to 125, so it's significant. So, I mean, I'm gonna turn this over to Andy. I didn't put together a full debt service calculation because there's no real change in 10 days. We didn't cover a period. So really, in what we did here, we didn't go through every line item. We tried to grab those driving consideration, the ones that are gonna move the needle, and present those guys as opposed to then calling out collections, vehicle maintenance. It may lose 1,000, or we may gain $1,000 on that kind of thing. These are the ones that are gonna move the needle.
Yes, so this is, this first column here is the GL accounts associated with the cuts that I had made. Account description in cell C, the original budgeted amount in 2026 in column D, and then the budget reductions that I had made in the last 10 days. This last cell F is just the expected goals, just using what we've spent, you know, multiplied out by 12 months to kind of see where we're at. The nice thing about all these accounts is over the last 20 years, I have been involved in all these accounts even before I was district manager. So I'm very intimate with them. I know what it takes to run them. I know what equipment we have for each of these accounts and kind of where we're at. So what I'd like to do is just start going through them. The raw water line Jackson Mountain account, that was a budget reduction of $65,000. This account, I was looking to do some raw water line replacement on the Snowball raw water line. I started that phase project last year. I was anticipating a 3-year project. We have 2 steep sections of pipe still left that are the original AC line. We don't have any issues with them right now. I would like to get fused HDPE in there, but I can move that into 27 or 28. So I'm looking to just extend this phase project out 1 extra year. We have extra pipe on hand. We have all the clamps. This is just one of those preemptive maintenance items that I would like to do. So I feel comfortable with that. The Trujillo booster station, the original budgeted amount, $87,000. I pulled $20,000 out of that overall budget. So this budget in the past, this and the river booster, we've had issues over the years with equipment failing prematurely. So over the last couple of years, I've been front loading that budget to cover those costs. This year, we have had no failures at either of these sites. I did implement a new protocol late last year. These pumps are set down in sumps, and we took our new hydro machine we bought a couple years ago and sucked those out. I believe what was happening, we were pulling dirt up into those motors, and they were getting excessively hot and burning things up prematurely. So everything is up. We have a critical spare at each site, and we have a critical motor and spare in the inventory. So I'm confident that we can get through the year with little to no maintenance down there. The rest of that cost can cover any kind of electrical issue, VFD drives go out, breakers, fuses, stuff like that. The river booster, originally 65,000. Again, I pulled another 20,000 out of that account. And it's the same thing as the Trujillo booster, just the changes that I've made operationally over the last couple of years. And I've been stockpiling pumps and motors for both of these sites. Both of these sites is how we deliver water from the San Juan River up to the San Juan Water Treatment Plant. So it's critical that we have all those pumps up. The maintenance account for Hatcher Water Treatment Plant, this account covers everything from pumps and motors to paint, in the facility, wiring, electrical, all of that would hit this bucket. We have originally budgeted $200,000. I have pulled $50,000 out of this budget. I worked this facility myself for about 15 years of my career, and I've been there since the facility was built. We are tracking below budget. I have critical spare equipment for all the pumps and motors up there. I believe that we can easily take this 50,000 and set it aside. As we work through these reductions, I want the board to realize, yes, I'm cutting tens of thousands of dollars out of these budgets, but we are halfway through the year, and when I build these budgets, I have to assume worst case. I have to make sure that I can cover a $40,000 pump getting dropped out. And luckily this year, so far, we haven't had a lot of massive failures at any of our facilities. So I feel comfortable pulling those back. But I want you to understand that I put that on the front end because I have no way of knowing when we built this in August. The snowball maintenance, same thing as the hatcher, everything but chemical runs through that GL account. We originally budgeted 150,000. I've pulled 75,000 out of that budget. We haven't even touched it. And that is because it's a brand new facility. I front loaded this GL account because I anticipated that PCL was going to be done with the construction. And once that construction was done, the warranty would be handed off to us. If I had a failure during that warranty period, I've got to pay for that pump up front and then get reimbursed by the vendor later. That's why we had set so much money aside in that account. We are not done with the project yet, so PCL has handled all of the warranty claims. We are still working on that project. I feel good that we'll be okay.
So that's actually kind of worked in our benefit, that they're dragging their feet a little bit on this end.
For
On
this
this-
scenario, yes,
Yes.
yes, it has. The San Juan chemical budget. This originally was budgeted at 140,000. I pulled another 40,000 out of it. We are tracking below budget on this. We use the exact same chemicals at this facility as we do at the other two facilities. In case we had, a major failure, we had a coagulant tank break and we lost a lot of product. We would be able to move product between facilities. And I front loaded this one because fuel charges and tariffs, I do not know in August what those are gonna look like. Typically, those vendors will let me know by February. So we always make sure we've got cushion in those chemical accounts. Another reason is just lead time. I can't run that too tight, but I feel comfortable with the 40 grand. We really only have a couple months left of operating that facility. That facility only runs during the summertime to make up the extra demand. So we are comfortable with that. The water line maintenance budget, originally 540,000. I only pulled 40,000 out of this account. This is a huge account. This covers everything for our water leaks, asphalt repair or concrete repair from those water leaks, any of the pipes, clamps, equipment running. I was very conservative with this because this particular GL account, I still have a couple projects that are open. We're actively working on the South 7th project right now. We have a project on Hillcrest. We're getting through the CDOT project. If for any reason that went over, this account would have to help assist with that deficit. So this one is very conservative. It's a big line item as well because last year we had a water meter freezing event. Luckily, we did not have that this year, so I saved some cash there, but it's something that I have to front load and worry about until we start getting through that part of the season. The fire hydrant maintenance, I have pulled this whole account only because we just finished our entire system was evaluated last year. We did 37 repairs from that evaluation from last year. We have the entire system 100% right now. And I am sitting on 12 brand new fire hydrants that are ready to go in case I need them.
That's great news.
Yeah. Yeah, this account has been flushed out and a third party has been through them, so
So we're 100% operation.
we are 100% operation right now. Yep. And we have backing from a third party to prove out that all of that has been looked at, every one of them has been exercised.
Awesome.
Outside services account, originally 125,000. I reduced this budget by 45,000. This account is tracking low, and this account is just a handful of consultant services that we use. We're tracking below budget. Sorry. Good, just do it right there, that'll work. The wastewater line maintenance budget, this is just like the water line maintenance budget, but it's just the collection system. So all of our sewer lift stations, the sewer line, any of our CCTV cleaning, any of our capital projects can wrap up into this as an overall. This line item, I cut 200,000 out of the 1.2 million overall. That is including the maintenance account and the CIP. I was able to cut that 200 because we have so many capital projects in place. And I have almost all of those projects done. We're finishing up lift station 1 will actually, we're about 15% into that project. That'll really take off in the fall. Everything is ordered for it. And I've got another project up on Snow Circle that we're doing. But everything else has been taken care of. The CCTV work, which is cleaning and inspections, most of that is already completed for 2026. And any of our smaller work that we have, alpine excavation, those projects have already been completed as well. The last account I had pulled cash out of is our Vista maintenance. It works just the same as the Hatcher maintenance. Anything within that wastewater plant that is not chemical falls into that bucket. That original is $403,702. I pulled 50 grand out of this account. I stay conservative with this one as well. One, I am not as familiar with the wastewater side as I am the water side. So more relying on the ORC and supervisor over there to give the direction. But we are tracking below budget on it. He felt more than comfortable taking the 50 grand out as we stand right now.
Is that Joe?
Yes, that's Joe. Yeah.
Knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So Jack, would you kind of go into these numbers here?
So the 815,000, that reduction includes the 600 that we had brought to the table 10 days ago. So really, we've tacked on another $215,000 of an adjustment. That 215, along with the 550, gets us to 765, which is really close to that 800, 825 delta that we're trying to cover. And again, this is the drivers. So there are onesie twosies that aren't captured here today. But we do believe that we are, I mean, it's important that we keep our eyes on the ball here, but that we're in a position that we can meet this without having to do a service charge today.
Yes, so I advise we're within, $30,000 or so of hitting the mark, and that's still just an estimate. The debt service coverage isn't completed until the end of the year. That's just where we're tracking right now. I would professionally advise to hold off on the surcharge. Let's give it another 60 days and let me finish up some of these bigger projects. We can go ahead and roll through this exercise again at the August meeting. We will have the results from second quarter. And that time of year, I have a really good idea if we're gonna have any kind of projects that are gonna run over. It's starting to get cold. We're starting to get into the holidays. I feel much more comfortable in case we need to cut a little bit or we start running over. One of the accounts that I do want to bring to your attention is the sludge transportation for the greenhouse. We have changed frequency of how often we're moving that sludge. So that account will run over. I'm not exactly sure right now. We're figuring probably between $20,000 and $30,000, but I'm equipped and ready to be able to absorb that through the wastewater fund, and that's a part of the overall bucket.
Does the staff for that? Does the staff?
No, that a third party comes in and grabs the dumpsters from over here at the greenhouse and takes them. Yeah, we don't have any of the equipment to do that. We just load them up. But we had made that change, one for just the smell around here. And the county landfill has started working with us much better. I think they had some compliance things that they had to work through. So our frequency is as often as we need. I think it is healthy overall quality, air quality around the plant here. Let me know if it's different. But that was a change that we made that does negatively affect us.
I've had a lot of complaints though from people about the smell, so I appreciate the county stepping up.
Yes,
Let's
thank you.
get that done. That's-
Yeah, as soon as we contacted the landfill, quick response is exactly what we needed. They worked with us, so I really appreciate that.
Eric?
Yeah, it's Eric McGrath, yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Good guy. So that's where we're at. I understand that we had rolled out the 800. We're backing back off, but I am very forward up front. If I see an issue, you guys need to know about it. That's the way I conduct business. We weren't exactly sure where that was gonna land. That's what Jack has been working around the clock. We've been extremely busy making sure that we can make this happen. And I think waiting on that surcharge, just gives us some time to get a little bit farther into the year and really see where we're at. And in July, we'll be going through our 2025 audit, which will be good to have that information next time we meet for the August 13th meeting.
Okay.
So that is my recommendation. Do any of you guys have any questions?
I do, but I'm gonna open it up and start over on this side.
Yeah.
I thought we had a debt on the greenhouse.
These are the 5 agreements. Will you go to sheet 3 real quick?
Yeah.
These, so if there is a debt agreement on the greenhouse, if I don't know to go look for it, it's difficult for me to find. These are part.
Was that a grant, Glenn?
I believe it's part of the Highlands project, so it's probably folded into that.
Folded into that. That's what I was wondering. Okay, because that happened at the same time.
Mhm.
Yes, and there was a $2 million grant associated with that.
And also, I think when we discussed the budget, there was a possibility of a transfer of $500,000 either to wastewater or to water at the end of the year, depending on how finances were coming out. Am I remembering that correctly? That we could come from the general fund into one of those, we could transfer some money into one or the other?
So I can speak to 2025 at this this point, because I'm going through that portion of the audit. And we did pull 500,000 out, and I don't remember, I'm gonna directionally speak to you. 475 went to wastewater. Didn't have the ability to pull all of that 500, but specific to the wastewater, the other 25 went to the water side.
Does that play into this whole?
It is part of it is part of our calculation, and it's part of our standard operating processes.
Okay, okay. That was all I had.
So I guess my question is, because it sounds like you're saying, hey, for this year, we can make do.
I will get you through 2026. I need your assistance in 2027.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is because and I'm not knocking anybody, but I was on the PLPOA board when they said we're not gonna raise it for your dues for 7 years. And obviously at the end of that 7 years, it was like, okay, well, here's a $25 increase to everybody. So I appreciate the willingness to actually be able to do this, but I guess what I'm asking is the staff saying we're gonna make this happen, but ultimately we're gonna end up with a higher budget next year because of it? Or are we saying where we probably should consider maybe a slight increase versus a bigger increase in 2027, or what? I'm just trying to understand that.
Not a higher budget next year, because the things that I'm cutting out this year is just issues that we did not experience that I had anticipated.
Okay.
So just because, take for instance, if I'm pulling $50,000 out of the Hatcher budget, I'm not looking for that $50,000 on top of the 200 that I typically ask for. That's not where we're at. I have been lucky this year to not have massive failures this first 6 months. So I feel comfortable going ahead and dropping that budget. And that's kind of what I was explaining at the beginning of my descriptions is these budgets are increased on the front end, just in case I could lose 3 pumps, you know.
And your explanation was good. I'm just wondering whether we're
Yeah.
deferring. Because there's a lot of times, right, where like in the company you go, hey, I planned on doing this year, but I'm gonna take 40 out, 50 out, whatever, and defer something. Are we deferring anything in any?
We are not deferring anything.
Okay.
Well,
Just have not had the
Problems.
failures.
the HDPE, I guess, we're kind of deferring, but it's also not failing.
Yeah, it's just, it's deferring it an extra year. We are adding an extra year to that phase program, but I am very much a preventative maintenance operator and not so much reactionary. When I started as the operations manager here, I was working towards, I don't like working at 2 AM. So I would like it to be replaced before it blows.
We are
So-
deferring one small piece of the 1.2 in the collection system, but that still falls well into compliance for 2026
Yes,
with CDPHE's requirements.
yes.
We
So-
can do that in 26.
I guess what I'm asking staff is are we just trying to prolong an increase that we're gonna need to do? And we're just trying to prolong it, and it's imminent, and we should probably do something small now and maybe something small later to make it less burdensome on the people who are struggling in an economy that is very difficult. Food prices, gas prices, they're all up. I just wanna make sure that if we know an increase is gonna happen, I would rather make it smaller now and then potentially have a small one in next year than I would have a big one next year because we decided to defer it now.
Yeah, I don't think it's as black and white as, let's just use the example of a 6% increase. You are asking, do I recommend a 3% this year and a 3% next year instead of just the 6? That's not really what I'm saying. I've been able to pull enough cash out of these budgets to keep our debt service coverage under control, but ultimately, if we only needed a 3% increase next year, then do the 3% increase next year. I am getting us through 2026, but we are going to need to look at some kind of rate increase in 2027.
Okay.
I mean, our CIFs are lower. There is not as much building going on,
Yeah.
so we're going to need to compensate for that in 27. But it's not as black and white as just giving a small increase.
So we'll know more when we look at the budget.
We'll know more when we look at the budget, and we'll know more at the August 13th meeting. Now, if something catastrophic happens and I need $250,000, that could change
Correct.
that discussion in a couple months. But I hate to implement another fee, especially right now when we already have our extra fees in place for the drought management. I hate to get ahead of ourselves and over collect.
And again, it was just a question to try and.
No,
You
absolutely.
did a good job. in your
I
explanation.
appreciate you
Great.
bringing it up.
Glenn, you got anything?
No, great work. I mean, I think, we did put off the new rate study and kind of committed that we would take a very business-like look at what's recommended for next year. And I think we'll just go ahead and do that, unless, of course, something catastrophic were to occur. I think we can propose some reasonable increases in the water and wastewater, and perhaps in availabilities, and just share the pain equitably at the start of next year. Great job.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. But I just wanted to piggyback kind of off of what you were saying a little bit. In that, yeah, I worry that we're gonna, maybe not 2 months, maybe next month, you guys can keep a real close eye on it. I don't wanna get to like October and then go, oh no, we need to make up some money, something bad happens, costs a lot of money. And then instead of us raising the rates $3 a month, now we gotta bunch it into like a 2-month area. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if we could just keep that on a real tight eye on that, that would be my opinion going forward.
Yes, I sat down with all the supervisors for all the different departments. Nothing's getting purchased that I don't know about, substantial stuff. That is very close. With my operations manager and myself, I'm very involved. I'm still around these facilities every day. I know what's going in and what's coming out. So we are paying attention to it because it can shift. It can shift in 30 days, it can shift in 2 weeks, but only being 6 months, almost 7 months into the year here, I think we're a little early to put that fee in. With everything tracking as good as it is. It was a much different story when we had $800,000. I can't hold that out of our savings accounts, but a couple $100,000, especially as we get farther into the year, that's a different story. But we will absolutely pay attention. This is all
I appreciate it.
every day.
I appreciate the hard work on that, and Jack, thank you for finding that. I've been on this board a little over 2 years, and I have always worked under the assumption that it was 1.25. So, yeah, I appreciate that, because
Well, I
That-
think we use that as a safety net as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
but finding
You
that, I
don't wanna
appreciate
sit on the floor and have to.
that was a big deal finding that. That's so great. Thank you for that. Got any more comments?
No,
We got a couple of minutes left here.
Sounds like we don't have to raise the rates today.
So I guess, we didn't have it on the agenda, but since we got a couple minutes left here, is there, John, you're here, you got anything you want to add? Is there anybody on the Zoom?
No, I've talked to you, I know you were afraid it might happen tonight and whatever, and we sure understand trying to find money for roads, what you guys go through. No, not right now. I would encourage you guys to have a discussion at some point when you do your borrowings, that you meet with the county. I think Bill and Glenn both will remember, that's how we shut down the impact fee back in 2010. Is Pawsd and the county supposed to meet once a year, or when a big event takes place, a financial event, like the 2024 revenue bond. just get with the county, cause
Definitely talk
we're,
about that.
we're gonna get hung out too if something bad happens. Cause I think we're supposed to get together on big stuff like that. And I have no issues, the county has no issues with what you guys do, we got our own problems. But I would encourage you guys to discuss that, just whatever time, whenever a big financial thing comes up, doesn't have to be every year. But if something happens, it's gonna come back on the county as well as come back on Pawsd.
Well, appreciate your comment. Anybody else got anything to add? Glenn, you got anything? Closing comments?
No, no.
Not, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Hi.
Meeting adjourned.